start of the trail, and I asked them if there was anyone else there, and they said no. And then basically, I started to walk in. I got maybe about 100 metres in, and it was really weird. And I started hearing all these voices, sounded like Aboriginal voices, and they come from the right-hand side, but they sounded like child's voices, like 5, 6-year-olds, and it was like you couldn't make out what it was saying. And then the left-hand side, it sounded like teenage voices, but the same Aboriginal kind of voice, but it was all mumbling. Couldn't make out what they were saying, and I'm thinking someone playing a joke on me. I got about 250 metres into the trail, and then something started going through the bush, maybe 5, 6 metres to the left of me, and it was paralleling me, and it was just going straight through the bush, and as if I'd walk and stop, it'd walk and stop. So then I kept going, and it was drizzling rain, so I got to a certain spot which was probably about 500 metres in the trail, and it opened up where I could see into the bush more. But this, whatever it was following me on the left-hand side of the trail. You could just hear it going through the bush. When I got to this spot, I was looking around, and I've got the camera there, and I've got a towel over it. I'm videotaping. It must be 6-7 metres away. It was 3.5 foot high. And I'm sitting there looking at it. I'm trying to focus on it because it's drizzling rain and it's foggy. There's not much light because it's pretty dark because the clouds are really thick and they were low. So I kept looking at it, and I'm thinking, is that something there looking at me? And it was behind this paperbark tree. It was facing the same way I was walking to the trail, but it had just its head looking at me. That's what I couldn't see no body. I could just see the head. And it was only 3.5 foot tall. That's about maximum height. It wasn't all that big. I'm about 6 foot, so it's about half the size of me. After looking at it for maybe a minute, I was trying to work out if it was something, and then it just moved its head, and then it blinked. The hair was dark. I don't know if it was a dark brown or black because it was raining, so sometimes when the hair gets wet, it's actually darker than what it is. The hair was, just say 2 inches long, but it had a face, kind of looked human, but like a more apish, and it was blue-grey, the face, and there was no hair on the face at all. The hair was around its forehead, around its ears, but the hair went along the chin line. The hair was all on the neck, but just all the face features, there was no hair. The ears were dark, like the skin was dark on the ears, but the face was the blue-grey.
What was the distance between you and this thing?
6-7 metres maximum, and it was kind of where I was on the trail. It was higher than me, so I was trying to film it, but I was actually filming over it because I couldn't see on my camcorder because it was fogging up, and then the camcorder just gave in. Just the rain and stuff just wrecked it. Hasn't worked since.
You were watching it for how long?
I was standing there watching it for about a minute when it blinked, and its eyes were like just black. There was nothing else. It was just black eyes, and then the vision, when I was trying to work out, it was really bad. The rain was coming down. It was like real thick, misty rain, and you couldn't see that good. The fog, there was actually fog coming through. It was actually a really bad winter's day. And then just as it started clearing up, that's when it just moved its head, and then it blinked. And I went, nah, the face is too broad. And then I started picking out the features on it, kind of like realise what I'd seen. All of a sudden, the rain got really bad, and then I just stood there for about another 2 or 3 minutes. It didn't look like it was a baby. It looked like it was an adult, and that's what it was. Its full size was. It was 3.5. Like, and I heard that after I'd seen that, I talked to some people. They said it was a jundaji, which is a small one.
Describe again the sounds. Did you think there were people off the trail? I mean, it was a human sound.
I thought at first it was the rain hitting the leaves, but I've hiked a few times in the Blue Mountains, all types of weather, and while the rain's been there, I kept listening, and it sounds like little 5, 6-year-old kids talking, but Aboriginal kind of speech. But it was like the words were overlapping each other, and you just couldn't understand what actually was being said. So I kept walking in, and I'm like, what's going on? I've never heard this before. Then to the left-hand side, I heard teenage kind of voices, and then all of a sudden it stopped. When I was walking along, I could hear something going through the bush, and I'd walk a few 100 metres, and when I'd stop, it'd stop. And I'd look in, I couldn't see it. There's a lot of tea trees there, a lot of thick bush. You can't see in. You can't even see in 2 metres. And then when I got to this spot, it was already there. It had beat me to that spot. It was just behind the tree. And it was actually, I couldn't see shoulders, I couldn't see anything else, I could only see this head. So it was like it was behind the tree, and the tree wasn't that big, so it wasn't really a big-bodied creature. It was only small, and it wasn't that wide, because all I could see was his head and his face looking at me, and that's all I could see. The nose wasn't like an ape nose, it was like a human nose, but just a bit wide. The whole face was like a blue-grey. I actually asked someone else, probably a year or two later after that, and I said to him, I didn't see a big one, I seen a small one. And he said to me, was it dark? And did it have a blue-grey face? And I went, yes. And I never told him anything about it. And when he said that, I went, yeah, for sure, I've seen it. And the ears weren't that big. Nothing was real big about it. It was just like, there was a small child that's 3.5 foot, that's like 8 or 9 years old. Yeah, the hair all over the head, 2 inches long maybe. But it was all wet, so it was all kind of like, if your hair gets wet and you brush it back, and it all stays in place. Didn't have any wrinkles on it. The face seemed like it was really no wrinkles at all. The lips, just normal small lips, no big lips. They weren't just like really small. It didn't really have a big mouth. Everything about it was completely